what if? What if you could travel through time, to the future, to the past? And then, once you ask that question, what if I could travel through time? Then the possibilities just blossom. I was heavily inspired by the Body Electric, okay? The Rush song. Zonos is an orbiting space station, orbiting network of space station that orbits Aretherra. Aretherra. Why do I call it that? It's kind of a weird word, right? Hey guys, it's great to be back. Tonight we're talking about time and time travel. I love sci-fi and fantasy. I love science fiction and fantasy. I have my entire life. My favorite stories, books, movies, TV, or my favorite ones are about sci-fi and fantasy. And time travel is actually a common theme seen in both sci-fi and fantasy. Of course, you know this, but why is it important? Well, a good story can teach, it can entertain, and it can inform and get you excited about the boundless possibilities throughout all of space and time. So let's talk about time and time travel. I have some new ideas from my novel, and that's a big reason why I've been thinking about time these past few days, weeks, well, years really, but more specifically to now. I'm really excited. This is my third episode for time travel, and we have a lot to cover. So guys, you know where you are. I'm Eric, and let's go. Time. On a daily basis, considering time. When I had the idea and I wanted to talk to you about this subject and make this third episode about time travel, well, I have notes. I thought to myself, and I do. But to find those notes and to dig deep in my little room right here and find these are just some of the binders that I've collected for my novel, that I've written, research I've done. That's just some of them. But to find those took a lot of time. But also, as I went back, and have you done this before? Where you're digging through an old box or a closet or a stack of whatever it might be. It could be anything, but something that's been kind of tucked away for a while, right? And then you start going through it, your memories go back. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I held on to that. I don't even remember. I didn't even know I had that. And your mind instantly takes you to the time of your life in which you collected that item, that piece of paper, that CD or that old album. It could be a piece of clothing. Okay, I don't have to list them all. But the point is, you know how objects are related to memories a lot of times. And that's why we hold on to certain things. My room right here, I'm surrounded by objects that I've collected throughout my lifetime. And each of these around this room that you see behind me, and there's more over here, are all connected to different points in my life. They have meaning to me, and they're connected to memories. And that's the beautiful thing, right? That memories are actually a way in which we can revisit times of the past. Without time travel, our memories can take us there. Kind of fascinating, right? Because we lived it at one point. Now, if it's forgotten, it's forgotten. But if you can remember back to that specific day 20 years ago, and some event happened, whether it be good, bad, ugly, or in between, and you're taken right back, and you remember where you were and who you were with and what happened to you and what you did. It is like time travel. Our memories can transport us throughout all the years of our lives. And that's what happened to me. I found a bunch of things in trying to find my old notes in my old research. I found so many items like, whoa, one of which actually has a little bit to do with time. This is an old birthday card. Of course, Star Wars, right? Big fan. My mom sent me. Older you have become, and celebrate we must. So yeah, it's just a silly little card, but I thought it was interesting because yes, our age, okay, how old we are throughout time are actually markers and waypoints along the way. So that card brought me back to whatever, how many years ago that was. My mom gave that to me, and she writes a little note inside, and I'm taken back. and she might reference something of that day, and your memories take you back. It's a kind of virtual, organic form of time travel in which our consciousness can actually kind of be transported there. It's very cool. So it took a lot of time to get ready for this video. I haven't done this in a while because of my health issues, so that took time. But finding all this old stuff from my old notes and different things took me through a memory trip back through time. So time encompasses so much of our lives. I first got into time travel when I at a young age. Actually, basically 10 or 11 years old. When Back to the Future came out in 1985, that was my first introduction to time travel, as it was probably so many of us. And I'm so thankful that Robert Zemeckis made those films, the Back to the Future films. And I rewatched them again lately. And I'm going to create a video kind of celebrating the fact that it's now 40 years later. 40 years. Can you believe it? 40 years for Back to the Future. So that is just one. And then just a few years later, Groundhog Day came out. All right, why are these important? Well, for me and a lot of us, Back to the Future may have been that first real exposure to the possibilities of time travel. The excitement and, of course, pitfalls, right? And in Back to the Future, what they were teaching mainly in the first one and in the second one is the grandfather paradox. In the first movie, Marty travels back to 1955, 30 years back from 1985. And in that movie, he accidentally causes his mom, or his mom falls in love with him or gets infatuated with him instead of the dad. And that is the grandfather paradox. What if you go back and either accidentally kill your grandfather or prevent him from meeting your grandmother? If they do not come together and then create your mother or father, right? Grandparent to parent to you, then that creates a paradox. Okay, so they came together. You exist because your grandparents got together, correct? Now, what if they didn't? Do you cease to exist? They never got together. Your mom or dad were never born, and hence you were never born. It creates what's called a paradox, where when you break time that way, and then the steps in between, from the grandparents to your mom and dad to you, that chain of events is called causality. So causality is, again, the link between the past and the future. And the events along the way, they have to say a certain way. If they are broken, one theory of time travel is that it falls all the way down the chain to you, hence creating a paradox. Now, Groundhog Day introduced time loops. And a time loop, of course, is the repeating of a certain period of time. It could be a day, a year, a series of events. Star Trek did it beautifully. Groundhog Day. He had to repeat that one day, Groundhog Day, over and over and over again. Now, that had a moral to the story, where Bill Murray's character actually had to learn and become a better man. So, that was the message of the movie, where when he finally, quote, gets it right, then the day would flip over at midnight, and the next day would happen, the day after Groundhog Day. But that causality loop, over and over again, it's called a time loop. So in just 2 movies, we learned about the grandfather paradox, Back to the Future, and time loops in Groundhog Day. Those movies were so instrumental in probably my earliest exposure to time travel. Fast forward, there have been many fantastic TV shows, Fringe being one of them, Continuum, of course, 12 Monkeys, and Legion. And recently I've been rewatching the Legion TV series, and then which is a fantastic character, and it's a great TV series, by the way. It's about David Haller, who believes he's schizophrenic, but actually he is the son, he finds out, of Charles Xavier. That's right, the founder and headmaster of the school for the gifted or the X-Men. So the bald guy in a wheelchair, yes, his son is David Haller, and he was adopted, and he has ridiculous level powers. Not only has he's telepathic, he can read thoughts and so on, but he has also telekinetic, where he can actually control matter, whether it be moving matter, but he could actually create and rearrange the matter around him just using his mind. So his father was, of course, we know telepathic, Charles Xavier, but David Haller's even more powerful. Ridiculous. So, Legion, check it out. It's on Hulu. 12 Monkeys, of course. In modern day, that has been the greatest influence on me with time travel. Beautiful TV series, 4 seasons. It used to be on the Sci-Fi network. And so, yeah, I've talked about 12 Monkeys before. I'm a huge fan. And so do check that out. And I won't go into all of the amazing different types of time travel and the different stories based upon them. There's a time loop in that series too, called Lullaby. Beautiful episode from, I believe, season 2, episode 7. In the first 2 episodes of these time travel series that we're doing, in the first one, I gave you a list of time travel movies and TV, and things like The Magicians and 12 Monkeys and Groundhog Day, Continuum, Looper, which came out in 2012, Tenet. Tenet's a great movie, by the way. It kind of a really cool take with reverse entropy, and that came, of course, at Christopher Nolan. Star Trek: First Contact, Legion, Avengers End Game. What is that, like the biggest movie of all time? Yes, End Game, of course, had to do with time travel. Doctor Who, used all the time, the TARDIS, right? The Doctor traveling through time. And if you're going to watch Doctor Who, please watch the ones with Matt Smith. I believe he is the greatest Doctor. The current Doctor is horrific. He's not the Doctor. He's just some kind of weird poser. Watch Matt Smith's years, okay? With Amy Pond, and just amazing. Is written and directed, or written and produced by Stephen Moffat. So, Doctor Who, all right? I could go on and on about that. Lucy, Terminator 2, Stargate SG-1, Harry Potter and Prisoner Azkaban, Time Trap, Travelers, which is a TV series on Netflix, Interstellar movie, Doctor Strange, okay, 2016. One of the oldest ones on this list is A Christmas Carol. Yes, and my favorite version of the Christmas Carol is a musical version that came out in, 1970. It's called Scrooge. And in high school, I was actually in that musical, and I had one of the lead roles in. But the Christmas Carol, of course, is where ghosts from his past, present, and future, and kind of like Groundhog Day, he has to learn to be a better man. Scrooge does. You probably know the story. But my favorite version, 1970, with Albert Finney, is called Scrooge. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Run, Lola, Run, Predestination, Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, the one with the whales. They travel through time. Primer, Source Code, 13 Going on 30, Safety Not Guaranteed, X-Men, Days of Future Past, About Time, The Time Machine, Outlander, TV series, and The Atom Project. That's just a list of 33. Okay, if you want to watch some time travel. The second episode I did was about time loops. Here are a bunch of time loop TV movies. Groundhog Day, Cause and Effect, which is a Next Generation Star Trek episode. White Tulip is an episode of Fringe. All the Time in the World, episode of Dark Matter. The Lodger, episode of Doctor Who. Monday, X-Files. Lullaby, 12 Monkeys. Coda, Voyager. And Those We Left Behind, Fringe. Doctor Who, The Pandorica Opens, and The Big Bang. Again, those are Matt Smith episodes. The Edge of Tomorrow, okay, that's Tom Cruise, where he's wearing that big mech suit. Well, that's a time loop. Mystery Spot, Supernatural, fantastic episode of Supernatural, season 3, episode 11. And finally, Time Bomb, an episode of Angel. So that's a sample of the TV movies that I enjoy and that I've watched throughout the years, and I still go back. And I own a lot of those, and I'll rewatch them, and I love them, right? Did you know that time travel stories, actually the first one in written literature, was written in 1733 by Samuel Madden. It was called Memoirs of the 20th Century, 1733. Wow. That's like before America was formed. And in that story, an angel goes from that year, around that 1700s, and travels to the future, like 1997, believe it or not, in the early 2000s, and brings letters back from the future to the past. Okay? So this is called Memoirs of the 20th Century. Okay, meaning he brought back letters from the 20th century to 1733. That's what we know is probably the first. You've probably heard of this next one, Rip Van Winkle. All right, about the man who falls asleep under the tree and wakes up many years later. That's a form of time travel, of course. And that was written in 1819 by Washington Irving. And of course, H.G. Wells in 1895 wrote The Time Machine. It's a novella, a short story, if you will. But H.G. Wells actually wrote, and that was probably the first time we heard the words or the term time machine. Because think about it. Throughout time, there was a time in which machines did not exist. That word did not even exist, right? You had to build a machine before you actually can call it a machine. So yes, H.G. Wells' The Time Machine in 1895. So in literature, time travel, it predates, of course, movies and TV. Those didn't even exist when these stories were first written and men began to conceive of the idea of what if? What if you could travel through time, to the future, to the past? And then, once you ask that question, what if I could travel through time? Then the possibilities just blossom, okay, exponentially, about the storytelling possibilities, the adventures, and what would happen, the good and the bad. And then science, they kind of mingle together, right? Anyway, causality happens. Eventually, Einstein and his theory of relativity, which, of course, takes into account both space and time. And it's all bound together. It's just so beautiful. We can't escape time. We're slaves to it, aren't we? The clock always ticks. The hours and the minutes and the years and the days, they just keep going and going and going and going. We cannot escape time. In fact, if you tried to, okay, they're so bound together. Without time, you can't even walk across the room. Because it actually takes so many steps. Each step takes a certain amount of time. Meaning space and time are like this. That's why the term eventually became space-time. In our reality, so far as we know, space and time are bound together. They're locked in their own relations. Now, can they change in their relationship to each other? Yes. Gravitational forces in different speeds. Okay, the closer you get to light speed, time begins to change and how it affects you and the things around you. So yes, they are locked together, but they can be changed depending on what is it called again? Your velocity, depending on how fast you're going. I had to think of the Dream Theater album, right? Distance over time, velocity, Aretherra. Why do I call it that? It's kind of a weird word, right? Seems to be spelled strangely. This is how, back there, this is how it's supposed to be phonetically, said, Aretherra, if you will. It is my novel, 30 years ago. That's a long time ago. I created Aretherra. And I asked myself this question. I said, what if I created an anagram, okay, where you take a word, you switch it around and create another word. What if I had an anagram for Earth? And I simply rearranged the letter and came up with Aerith. I know it's not hugely a departure, but it is different. I took Earth and I created Aerith. Then that evolved into Aretherra. Okay? So I had Aerith, and then I put a T in Terra, of course, meaning Earth or land, or and then so yes, I had Aerith, and I added a Terra after it, and Aretherra was born. Aretherra is a planet. And 30 years ago, I was in college. And in one of my college classes, I did that. I rearranged them, created an anagram, and then I started drawing maps for this world that I was creating. This is actually the first map from my college notebook, a copy of it. After that, I wanted to actually do and create a world building. And a story started to form loosely. I kind of created the world first before I populated it with characters and nations and people and all out over the world. This was the second map I drew, where they actually had different land masses. Okay, kind of like Earth now. But I wasn't done there. I thought, if my society mostly is not highly technical, I mean, there are not highways and cars, it's more agrarian, not exactly horses, there are modes of transportation, but there's going to be a lot of walking, okay, Lord of the Rings style, right? Exploring and going on an adventure on foot. And then I thought, no, I need to have one unified land mass. So I went from different land masses to one unified one. Okay, so now Aretherra, and there are actually southern and northern ice caps, and then this is the one landmass. And then here's another version of it, just black and white. So yes, I drew this. Okay, I drew this map of Aretherra with all the water. Okay, that's all the outside, and I'll show you one with blue, so you know what water is. And then I started. I mean, again, this is from my laser printer. And I can show you a color version, but yeah, I started actually coloring it in. My maps are not as pretty as Tolkien's, but I tried. So yes, Aretherra was formed. And then I built into the story the fact that it started as Aerith, so think the primitive formation of this planet. And this planet was actually called Aerith. Eventually, it became Aretherra. So I baked it into the history of the planet. So as I created one word and then another, well, same for this world. On this planet, I have a bunch of peoples and nations that occupy the different places on the map. Places like the United Republic of Aretherra, UROA, Phyros, Aquos, Zuvia, Vesuvia, Tarquinia, Kolos, Toloxia, Vatrix, the Arcanian Islands, Elpora, Eudora, and Zonos. These are all, I believe there's like 12, and including Zonos doesn't count because they're not technically on planet. How does this tie into time? Well, loving time travel as much as I do, time travel has always been baked into my story from day one. But then I asked myself, okay, how can time and time travel play into the plot in an organic and substantial way? So I had some ideas. One of the ideas was the planet Aretherra is actually connected through portals. You can take one portal to the other side of the planet if you want. Think Narnia, probably inspired by the cabinet in Narnia. Okay, so with that premise, and now, what if one of these portals, which basically teleport you to another place, and there is a portal that actually brings you up to space too. There's something in orbit. All right, that's all I'm going to say there. Not that I don't care about spoilers per se, but yes, so there's this portal network, okay? And you can go through a portal and end up in another place. Now, what if one of these portals actually transported you through time? That was my premise. So then I thought, okay, how can I use this? So I took my main character, Arrow, okay, and his name is, let me get a different piece of paper. His full name is Erosus, okay? And then Arrow for short. Why did I name him Arrow? Well, eventually, Arrow will either learn that he has the capacity to fly. And I thought, what better name would be than Arrow? So my main character is Arrow. He's a young man or a boy. And then, but with the portal in place that transports, so what if he took him from a 12-year-old to a 21-year-old? So he walks in a portal as a 12-year-old, but comes out as a 21-year-old. And just simply he's transported through time and actually ages. Okay? Time has passed and he comes out a man. So I thought that was really interesting. Using time travel in that capacity to actually fundamentally change my character. Imagine being a young boy. You want to go on a grand adventure like I did when I was his age. When I was Arrow's age, 10, 11, 12 years old, all I wanted was to go. And I went on adventures up here, though, in my mind, using my Star Wars figures and my toys. And I would create stories for hours, playing alone with my toys and creating my own adventures. And when I wasn't doing that, I would be going outside and pretending I'm in another world. I am Arrow, basically, right? You write what you know. Well, that's what I know. I dreamed all the time. And I imagined all the time. That's what I did as a kid. And I bet a lot of you did as well. But what if you take this young boy, but he needs to be a great hero and warrior, right? A champion for his people. So let's age him up. You can do that with one portal trip. Now, then I started to ask myself, okay, now how time has affected his body, right? At a cellular, molecular level. And he comes out an adult, but what if he has the same mind? Because think about it. We become who we are over time. Time changes us because the events, the sequence of events, and the things throughout our life fundamentally change us. We acquire experiences and memories. We go from child, we put away childish things, and we become an adult. Now, but if you go through a portal as a 12-year-old, and then you're physically changed to a 21-year-old, well, then you haven't had all those experiences. It's just very quick one-way trip, and you're an adult. But up here, you're still 12. Yes, you have the fully formed, molecular, you have the mind of an adult, right? The hormonal changes, you're an adult. You've been aged up. But you don't have the experiences. You haven't gained the memories, gone through the trials, the good and the bad, and all the things of life, which take you from childhood to adult. You're right, you got me. So I found that really fascinating. A 12-year-old becomes a man. Yeah, it was funniest for a lot of us guys. I know me. I might be like a 50-year-old dude, right? I've got a haggard old 50-year-old body. But up here, yeah, I'm still 12 half the time. Can you feel me on that, guys? And the old ladies out there going, yeah, we know you're a bunch of boys, a bunch of kids. So I found that to be a really cool story tool. And I was going to implement that. And I still may, but I have some new ideas. So yeah, that is one major way in which I use time. Another way, I have a character called Fixus. So Fixus is an android. Fyxys. Fixus. I was heavily inspired by The Body Electric, okay? The Rush song, brilliantly written by Neil Peart. And I love that song. I love hearing the story about an android in distress. That was a huge inspiration for me in creating Fixus. Well, Fixus travels through time the slow way, the way that we do. So what I did was I conceived of him time traveling. Imagine he goes to a cave on a mission, but something happened, and he had to power down. And the next thing he knows, 1,000 years has gone by. He boots up again, and all his systems come online, and his sensory and his optic nerves, so he can see. Right, he comes online. so he can then be part of the surroundings again, because he's been, quote, asleep or dormant or is powered down for 1,000 years. So what I did is I had Fixus in the past 1,000 years ago. I just picked a round number. It could change, but then when he wakes up, he's in the, quote, present day. And we're going to talk more about that term in a moment. But so he goes from the past to the present. Now, this is where Arrow lives. Okay? This is the time in which Arrow is. So, Fixus lived 1,000 years ago. But what if he knew of this great enemy? The enemy, the great adversary, the antagonist of my story. That character also lives at least 1,000 years as well. He is more like an angel, okay? Not exactly bound by time, able to live in a physical reality with us, but at a cellular level, he doesn't age like normal humans or other types of species on my planet. So he's not exactly bound by time in that way. And of course, we are. When we're born, we have a ticking clock. All right? Our cells are beautiful and new when we're born, when we're infants. And they can repair themselves like this, right? And what we know is about like the stem cells, that source code, right? That programmed beautiful code in our DNA, those stem cells are able to regenerate and reprogram. So when a baby gets hurt, it'll heal so much faster and so much better than I will now. That's just a fact of life, because at a cellular level, we have a ticking clock. None of us will ever live beyond like 120. That's the cap. I believe right now on this planet Earth, because that's where we live, right? My mind's so much on Aretherra right now. But here on Earth, we actually have, I just heard of like the oldest lady alive is 114. Okay? And so, yeah, people can get up in that low century mark, just past 100, 114. That's pretty darn good. Good for you, lady. I just heard it on the news the other day. But the point is, her cells have a ticking clock. Okay? It's baked into her DNA at the cellular molecular level. We will not live any longer than that. And I know scientists, very rich people, supposedly, I've heard, the Illuminati class believe that somehow they can live forever. No, you're not. We're not programmed that way. Apophanon. Yes, I pulled his name. It's kind of a hybrid of some Egyptian mythology. And I created my own word from one of the Egyptian gods. He is the big bad guy. But then in modern day, he's known as Zyvan. So that is spelt Xyvaen. Zyvan is my big bad. He lives on Zonos. I love this word because it can be written backwards and forwards, right? Zonos. Zonos is an orbiting space station. Yes. An actually sci-fi level orbiting network of space station that orbits Aretherra. Now, most people do not know that Zonos is out there. Okay? But there's a people there, and there's a leader, Zonos. Why is Zonos important? Well, of course, our leader, right? The dude that was at least 1,000 years old, doesn't age, was thought to be dead, and Fixus thought as much before he powered down. 1,000 years elapse, present day where Arrow lives, but also here's the catch. From the big evil space station up in the sky, where Zonos, where Zyvan and all his minions are, comes another hero, Trin. I have to admit, I think I was a little inspired by Trinity. Of course, we know Trinity from one level, but that name was also used, of course, in what? That's right, the Matrix. So from that, I created Trin. Trin is the female protagonist. So eventually Trin and Arrow will get together. Not in a biblical sense, but as, heroes or whatever, right? To work together. She's amped up. She already has next level superpowers, but doesn't know it. So she comes to learn of her powers. All right. Why does she have these powers? Well, there's a myriad of reasons, but it is directly tied to Zyvan, Apophanon from the past, big bad Zyvan modern day. Trin is closely related to him. So, what does she do? There's a portal room. Yeah, up on Zonos. And from that portal room, she travels through space, okay, from orbit to the planet's surface, and eventually meets up with Arrow and and Fixus and my other characters of the little gang or the little pack, right? The crew. Okay, time travel. I had some new ideas though regarding time travel. When we go to sleep, I'm fascinated by sleep and by dreams. Okay, what we do while we're sleeping. I'm told that we dream almost constantly. Like say when we're in a deep sleep or REM state, that we dream all the time. We don't always remember them. A lot of times we do. From 2017, me and my life, okay, outside of the story, from 2017 to 2020, I dreamt constantly, meaning I remembered them, and I kept a journal. I have logged 1,100 to 1,200 dreams. I would get up in the middle of the night, and at that time I had a tablet, right, an old school. Well, at this point it's old school, but it was beautiful back then, like a 9 or 10 inch. What was it? It was a Samsung Galaxy tablet with the built-in keyboard, Bluetooth keyboard, and I'd wake up, remember the dream, and I'd be in the bathroom just off our master bedroom, typing away. Got it. And I kept a dream journal for 3 years. And over 1,000 dreams I've written down and typed and documented. I have no idea why and how I remembered those dreams for 3 straight years. I have no idea why I was so motivated to document them, to write them down. No idea. I mean, it's all a mystery to me to this day. I can remember back, and at times it was frustrating. I've even woken up, say, at 3 a.m., dream, oh, that's pretty cool. I'd go in there and type. I'd go back to bed, wake up at 5, and I was able to go back to sleep in that cool dream that I typed up at 3 a.m., I went back into it. I didn't even know that was possible. So I had this amazing dream. Let's just say I was flying, and I had a lot of flying dreams, by the way. And I wake up at 3 and I type, okay, I was flying, I was at a carnival. Oh yeah, and then I landed up here, and then this happened. Okay, got it, dream. And I put the time and date. So I always know when it happened, where it happened, and sometimes I'd write down what happened to me like during the day before I had the dream, because I was looking for the causality between events. Did something in the day cause me to have that type of dream? Because a lot of times in dreams we're working stuff out, right? We're figuring stuff out at a subconscious level. Okay, so I type it up. Cool flying dream. All right, I go back to bed. I'd wake up at 5 and realize that I had been back in this very same dream, meaning more events happened. Same time, same place, same circumstance, same characters, or whatever happened in that dream. And I believe once I did this 3 times. I'd type up a dream, go to sleep, wake up, hold up, there's more, and I type it up again, part 2, go back to sleep. I was there again at part 3. I didn't even know that was possible. To rejoin a dream, as if you're pausing a Blu-ray or whatever, you're or pausing a video, okay, a YouTube video or whatever. You pause it and you come back and you watch a little bit more, and then you pause it like I'll finish that tomorrow, and then you come back and you watch the rest of the video. That's what it was like, hitting pause on my dream, typing it up, and then hitting play again. Pause, play. Okay. Why am I bringing up dreaming? Why am I bringing up sleeping? Because we're talking about time. Have you ever been on a trip? It could be by plane, Trains, plane, and automobile, okay? It can be any form of transportation, but a type of form of transportation in which you're able to take a nap. Planes are very common. Some of you, if you commute on trains, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever been on a long bus ride or in the backseat of your parents' car. Okay, you got the premise. You're in a vehicle and you can take a nap. What happens? You're in the vehicle, you go to sleep. You sleep for an hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. You wake up. Holy crap, we're already in Pennsylvania? Meaning you fell asleep back in New England. Or maybe you're in the Midwest. Like, wow, we're already on the East Coast. I've been asleep for 3 hours. Whatever it might be. You've literally skipped over that time. It is like time travel, sleep is. Because time elapses without us consciously knowing it. Which takes me to this revelation I had today. Time seems to be simply our ability to catalog it, to remember it. Without that, how can we know? Still trying to think this through. Our memories inform us and act as, again, those waypoints along the way of our lives, right? I might be able to remember back to being a teenager. I definitely can, right? I had a lot of fun in high school. A lot of pretty girls. I'm not saying bad stuff, if you... I'm going to get in trouble for this one. No, but yeah, I dated a lot of girls. It was a lot of fun. And I love my music, man. Playing sax and being in drum corps and being in chorus and being in musicals, right? So music was and is my life. Playing music and being part of music and writing songs for my band. Okay, I love music. I can remember all of that. Most of that. All the good highlights. I can remember them. I can remember what I did in college. And then I met my wife. And we had a blast. And then we got married. And then we didn't have a blast. That's a joke. No, I'm just kidding. But you remember those points in your lives. Sometimes you might remember a ridiculously difficult, hard time in your life, right? You lost someone. They passed away. You lost your parents. Maybe you were sick. Maybe you had cancer and you beat cancer. Maybe you had open bypass surgery and then you find out that you still have heart issues. And you go through several months of... Oh, wait, that's my story. I'm kidding. But, okay, you got me. But you remember the amazing times. The time you got married. The time you got a new job. The time you figured something out or wrote a song. Those glorious times. A time out on a boat on a lake fishing. A beautiful vacation in the Bahamas. You remember these, right? You remember these specific times. What does that do? That actually means something. Like we're able to know that time has passed. That's in the past. But without memory, how do we know what time is? If I had no long-term memory, I would be sitting here. I might be talking to you. I could read from a piece of paper. I could read like whatever's here. However, what if I walk out of this room and I don't remember that this is my house or, I'm married? Like, meaning you have no memory. And I don't remember when we got married and when we had our first, third, we had all our kids. Our memories allow us to catalog, okay? And quantify the years and the days, okay, in the decades that have gone by. They give us a link to that. They give us a sense of perspective. Okay. And that's what experiences and our memories do. I know that I'm sitting here now in this moment. But I know earlier today I had to go out and run some errands. I know that was in the past. That's just a quick example. I can also, many, many years ago, I was in college. And that's when I came up with Aretherra for the first time. I showed you that map. I can remember back to that. So, of course, stories can do this, memories can do this. It is about the accumulation of knowledge and the ability to recall what has happened. That gives us perspective on time. Because we are trapped in a linear reality of time, aren't we? I'm looking for a blank piece of paper. Okay? We are trapped from point A to point B. This is the past, and this might be the future. And of course, X marks the spot. This is right now. That is the course on which we're set. The clock turns, or for you this way, 1 minute to hour to day goes by over and over and over again. And as that clock turns, we slowly progress from point A to point B. That's linear time. Now, our memories allow me to be at the X in the middle, but I can remember back to the past, which is A. Without that, we have no concept of time. Time is from the perspective that you have in the moment. I can think about how I will eventually finish this very video, and you're probably asking, when will he finish this video? Is he gonna wrap this thing up? Eventually I'll do that. And you're thinking, please, it's about time. But I don't know when that's going to be. Oh, I am making this worse by the moment, aren't I? Okay. My point is this: we don't know the future. We don't know the future. We do not have that capacity. And if anyone says they do, they're a liar. Okay? Humans do not have the capacity to foretell the future. I'm sorry, we just don't. What if all of time is happening simultaneously? What if there is no past, present, and future? What if that's simply our ability to conceptualize time? Because we're human. Because we're trapped in this linear state. Okay? I start here, and I travel there. I have no other choice. But what if all time is taking place at the same time? So at this very moment, the Battle of Gettysburg is happening. At this very moment, whether you believe it or not, they landed on the moon. My goodness, my wife's been freaking me out lately. Like, she's now a moon denier. She's like, I don't know who on Instagram she's been listening to, but I gotta say, it worries me. But it also, I told her, I said, babe, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to live in a world in which we haven't been to the moon. So much of my love of sci-fi and science, right, of an exploration and adventure. A lot of that's based on the fact that we have accomplished certain things. And it is mind-blowing that we did it with like room-sized computers back in the 60s or whatever. That's mind-blowing, okay? But I'd like to believe it happened. Okay, so there's my diversion into the moon conspiracy. But I bring that up because what if it is all happening simultaneously? That, though, does lend perfectly to the theory of time travel. If the past is simply burnt embers and inaccessible, and by the way, I'm told that through special relativity in Einstein's relativity, that we cannot travel to the past. That is an impossibility. However, there is scientific proof or theory that you can travel to the future. Okay, but what if we could do the past? Right, let's just open it all up, right? Well, if I can travel to 1955, and I can travel to 2168 to the future, okay, from my perspective, by the way, what's crazy, consider this, that you could be watching this very video about time and time travel. You could be watching this video 2 years from now. You got that? You're watching this video after I speak these words. I'm speaking them in my present. And let's give a timestamp. It is, oh goodness sakes, it is 3:30 a.m., 5:15:25. Okay? Timestamp. 3:30 a.m., 5:15:25 is my present reality. Most of you at this time, in the middle of the night, are probably sleeping. You're probably sawing off. You're having a dream, probably, which is transporting you, by the way, through time. But you're watching it in the future. Does that mean that I'm living in the past? I'm saying these words and recording them right now at 3:31 a.m. on May 15th, 2025. You will not watch this video at 3:31 a.m. May 15th, 2025. You might watch this video whenever the heck I get it edited. But you're going to watch it in the future, aren't you? So what is time? Is it only relative to us in the moment? Is time only specific to the very seconds that tick by that I can observe my literal reality around me right now? That's why I love this. That's why I love time travel and the concept of time, and considering all the theoretical, all the possibilities. Literally endless. And that's why time travel is part of my novel, Aretherra. And also why the revelation I had recently, okay, this big new idea, I'm going to be, and I really hope I can do this, man. Again, spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. I'm going to be rewriting so much of Aretherra. I have like 15 or 16 chapters on my website, aretherra.com. The word's right back there if you want to check them out, but so much is going to change. Dreams are going to play a major part in the retelling and the reimagining of my story. I am so freaking excited. I'm so excited about this new concept that I have. I have the notes right here, okay? But I'm not going to get into them now. A, because we've taken a lot of time to talk about time right now. So I'm going to start to wrap this up. B, because next time, I love just saying that word over and over. Yeah, you know what? Let's do a drinking game, okay? If you can go back and rewatch this video, and you took a drink every time I said time, there's no one watching anymore because you've all passed out by now. All right. But I want to talk about dreams and sleeping. That's all I'm going to say for now. I'm very excited about this. I'm going to share some of this with you. You know, I always wonder, like, you know, if an idea is good enough, someone's just going to steal it. Point is, though, guys, I'm so thankful to be talking to you. I'm so thankful that, and I'm not out of the woods, by the way, health-wise, but recent events, I'm feeling slightly better. I really hope to get to be 100% again. But I bring that up because, yes, I have this major idea, and I've already reimagined, and I'm going to retell my novel. I've had so many ideas that I love. From the portals to the orbiting space station to people with superpowers to creating my own planet, and Arrow and Trin and Zyvan, of course Apophanon and Fixus, my android, in 1,000 years. I have all these in the portal system, and time travel and aging. All right, that's just a quick review of all the stuff we've talked about, right? Now, this reimagining, though, I've had these concepts and I've had these ideas, but I needed a unified force, concept, an idea, to tie it all together and actually create a compelling story. A slightly adult version of a child's tale, right? A fairy tale, which is both sci-fi and fantasy at the same time. And I've already mentioned so much of what's going to be in Aretherra. I'm really excited about it. I hope to talk to you. We're going to talk about this next time, about this new concepts, the new ideas that I have. And of course, I still want to talk. There's still a little bit more we can talk about time, but I've taken enough of your time. And even though you're watching this in the future, I'm not going to hold that against you. Because I'm living here in the past. Okay? I'm stuck here in the past. I envy you guys living out there in the future, by the way. I wonder what's going on in your lives right now, right? In the world events. Because, I'm back here in the past. I love time travel. I love science fiction. I love fantasy. In time travel being this thread that connects both sci-fi and fantasy. So many of the great sci-fi and fantasy stories have the concept of time baked into them. Briefly, in only a few seconds, I want to give you an update on why I've been gone and what I've been dealing with. My health. After a rigorous set of tests, a stress test, some kind of nuclear test, with different dyes and stressing my body, and then doing a live active scan of my heart. Yeah, I've had a quadruple bypass because of a genetic condition in my heart. The test has told us that I have a weak heart, which really, I just wanted to open the floodgates to the jokes that could be made there. Eric and his weak heart. So I guess I can never be called strong heart. So that was a revelation. Something I needed to know why I've been feeling really crappy for a long time now. I have not felt well. I'm often winded and tired from even small tasks. Well, I now know why. My heart has been weakened somehow. Sounds scary, right? Yeah. It's been stressful. On top of that, I've needed a tooth pulled. I know. I'm really getting into the minutia now, but I'm doing it for a reason. When you're a heart patient and when you have quadruple bypass surgery, for whatever the reason, mine was genetic, when you have that procedure done and they've rerouted the plumbing around my heart, 4 of them. Well, guess what? The rest of your life, you are a heart patient. You have to see cardiologists, and every part and aspect of my health now has to be screened and put before the cardiologist for him to sign off of it. So just to get a tooth pulled, which I needed, it was kind of broken. Point is, to get that done, I have to have my cardiologist. I have to get a certain treatment for my blood to bring up some hormone levels or whatever. Guess what? The cardiologist has to sign off it. Basically, I can't even break wind without the cardiologist going, okay, wait a second, did you just fart? Yeah. So my health has just been, it's been hard. It's been hard recently. It's been difficult and stressful because not being able, I haven't been able to go to work, in IRL, in the real world, and I haven't been able to make these videos and talk with you. And I have so much that's been on my mind and in my thoughts that I want to share with you, like I'm doing right now, that I haven't felt good enough. I haven't felt good enough to do much of anything. Because again, when your heart is not functioning properly, then it's your heart, right? And on top of that, I already suffer from chronic, often crippling chronic pain in my neck and my head because of those surgeries. So my life has been very difficult lately. It has been a challenge that I've had to rise and meet, face on and head on, with hope and optimism, and checking every box to get to some kind of an answer so I can improve my health and get on with my bloody life. That's all I want to do. It's just live my life. But, it's like the spirit is willing, right? I am so willing and I'm ready up here. But it doesn't matter if everything's good to go and I'm raring to go for a day and then I feel like crap. I think some of you might know what I'm talking about. Where in your mind, you're excited and you want to do something. You want to seize the day. Carpe diem. You want to seize the day. But your body says, no, I don't have the energy. I don't have the strength. And I'm unwilling to help you get that done. I'm sorry, Eric. You're not going to seize the day today. I know. And that's what my body's been telling me lately. Yeah, it's very frustrating. And it's taken a lot of mental, I don't want to say strength, but I mean, it has, to not get depressed and anxious over this, to know and accept that this is just a moment in time, okay? And again, this segues beautifully into our topic tonight, time. So I know the clock is ticking on this segment right now. I don't mean to belabor this and spend too much time on it. So I'll wrap it up and say that I'm working on it. We switched out my heart medication. I'm going to continue to see my cardiologist. I did just get my tooth pulled yesterday. Well, the day before. It's actually the middle of the night right now. This was like the only time in which I felt good enough to do this. I'm excited to share more with you guys. I'm really happy to be back. See you guys next time.